The Fargo Five. I'm Conrad Fargo. This is the city of frost and fire. You are going to discover the authentic stories of the extraordinary people that define our north of normal metro. Today, we have Joe. Normally we rushed in here. We had so much going on. Normally, I get a pronunciation on the name, but I'm just guessing here. Swegarden?
Close.
Swegarden. That would have actually been my natural inclination, was to read E as an A. If you could pull that mic much closer to you, like really right on top of you there. Joe is the chef and kitchen manager over at Heart and Soul Café. Previous guests may remember Leola Dahl, not spelled D-A-H-L, but D-A-U-L. I had a hard time finding her, but I watched through it just to get a primer on Heart and Soul Cafe. But Joe, welcome so much. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
So you are Fargo-born and raised. You seem like a younger guy, maybe a little closer to age than me. How old are you?
32.
32. Okay, wow, yeah.
I think.
A young 32. A young 32. Something happens. I remember in my 20s, I was like, it's just a number. And then when I actually turned 30, I was like, oh my God. Did you have an experience? Yeah, did you have an experience like that at all?
I feel like a lot of people said that the 30s were like their best years, and I think I'm agreeing with that. I think I'm seeing the world a lot differently in my 30s and 20s.
Absolutely,
so.
Definitely in my prime.
Yes.
There's no doubt about that. I'm feeling strong and youthful, but definitely the number starts to like really have its toll, have its impact. So you are the kitchen manager at Heart and Soul Cafe. How long have you been with Heart and Soul?
I started volunteering probably four or 5 years ago, but I've been employed with them for a little over 3 years.
So this is now an employment situation. Before that, it was a volunteer situation.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Wow.
I was super excited. I mean, that when she offered me a position, I did a little dance. I was like, you're kidding me.
But tell me more about that. So so this is your full-time job now. This is what you do.
Yep.
And before that, it was a volunteer situation. What is it that you did before when you were volunteering?
Okay, so I got introduced to Leola through Megan Lewis, who owns Milkmaid Catering. Mm-hmm. She asked me to help them with a meal they were doing out of Square One. And it was one of the Thanksgiving meals. So I before being employed, I just helped just do some pop-up meals, just cook and serve food.
But what was your? I'm sorry. Did you say what was your job at that time?
Ooh, my job at that time. Let's see. I think I was at Rosewild. I was helping Rosewild open up.
And where's Rosewild at? Yeah, that's
right in the new in that new big building downtown. It's the restaurant on the main floor, right on Broadway.
Restaurants has kind of been your world.
Oh, yep. Since I was a kid.
What was the first restaurant you ever worked for?
Maxwell's in West Fargo.
Okay, so you clearly have and it's coming together a little bit. So, and I think for other people besides myself, but certainly for me. I have a hard time understanding nonprofits in that world. I'm very good at understanding incentives and moving parts and looking at it and being like, oh, this exists for this reason, this exists for that reason. This is something you've probably met Patrick Kirby.
Yep.
He previous guest of the show. He was a great guest. I tried to pin him down on that. I kind of had a hard time, but definitely always kind of higher end things go along with nonprofits. And so starting with Maxwell's, that sounds what brought you to Maxwell's? I mean, how is it? Is it just anybody can go be a cook there? Is it because my experience with food service is that the people are desperate for help.
Absolutely.
Is it the case even at a swanky place? Maxwell's is.
I would say absolutely. I think as long as you can work hard, I feel like that's the beauty of the restaurant industry. I feel like they're willing to hire anybody. But I mean, at more of a fine dining place like that, I think they're hoping for a little more experience, but I was very green. It was my first cooking job, but I loved cooking. I've loved cooking and food since I was a kid, so I learned quick. I learned quickly.
Tell me what it's like working at Maxwell's, because I've done. We were talking about our mutual friend, Drew Brovold. Hi, Drew. And how he and I worked at Pizza Hut together. Now, that is, no disparagement. It's fast food. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's dirty. It's it's clean enough to eat, I guess, but you know what I mean? It is not glamorous. What's the back end of Maxwell? Is it more like, have you ever worked, so that was your first, and then from there you worked at another higher end place, like what?
Yeah, every restaurant is totally different, but I love the behind the scenes. I think Maxwell's opened my eyes to, I think coming into it as my first job, I had no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
Since then, it's been 14 years now. Every restaurant's totally different. But saying that, I love that about Heart and Soul, how I can take my fine dining, techniques and experiences that I've learned and provide that to people that maybe have never been able to afford to go to a place like Maxwell's and get a really nice meal. It's one of the coolest things about it for me.
And so you start with Maxwell's, that's not a bad choice. You move up. What was the second place again?
Second place was Blackbird Woodfire. Helped open Blackbird.
And your girlfriend. That's she's connected to that, right?
Yep,
okay, it's
Casey.
all coming together.
Yep. My dad actually worked with Casey Absey, the owner, at the hospital before, and he connected me with him. And he had this idea, and it was one of the most. It was so much fun because both of us had no idea what we were doing. We opened up this restaurant, and we had, we were doing it, and it was so much fun. So many hours, but to this day, it's still.
You say opened up this restaurant. We're talking Blackbird. You helped start Blackbird.
I was the opening kitchen manager. Yeah.
Well, gosh, I didn't know about that, and so. Again, kitchen manager, that's not store manager, but that's a pretty high-level position. I mean, how involved are you before launch? You must be...
Oh, gosh, I was everything. I mean, as far as pulling the staples out of the wooden floor, building that wood fire oven, messing around with 10 different types of sausage recipes and trying to find the right ones. I was doing it all.
Were you guaranteed a salary off the bat? I don't mean to pry financially, but I'm just curious because it sounds like more of a principal stake. I mean, you don't know if that business is going to go well or not. And
he gave me a salary, and at 21 years old, I was dancing. I was like, oh my gosh,
I'll take it.
Yeah.
What is your? I mean, this is so germane. How do you like your pizzas prepared? Did you help craft the menu then as well? I mean, was that? Wow.
Yep. I mean, Casey before they had truck pizza, so he had the dough locked in. The sauce, but. Everything else, I had a big part in it. Just kind of creating and seeing, and I mean, still, it was very exciting because both of us, like I said, we didn't really know exactly what we were doing or what people wanted or what have you. But I know the cheese plate was one of the most exciting things for me because it's one of my favorite ways to eat, and that was the biggest. And I think at first Casey was kind of a little skeptical about it, but it was one of my favorite things to kind of create.
Well, you were ahead of the curve. I mean, a cheese plate is basically the same thing as charcuterie, right? Or
yes.
not? I mean,
everyone just says charcuterie, but I feel like charcuterie is meat. That is meat.
Sure,
cheese plates. It's potato.
Okay, yeah. And what are your favorite pizza toppings? Do you ever get pizza outside of Blackbird?
Not. Some late nights when maybe I have
or early mornings.
Yeah,
as it turns to be in Pizza Patrol at 9 in the morning, right?
Yeah.
Woo. But what do you order when you get Pizza Patrol at 9 in the morning?
Oh gosh,
Are you just like
I'm a pepperoni green olive guy. I'm
green
salty
olive?
salty on salt.
Yes. No, I get that. I appreciate that a lot. I'm a pepperoni pineapple guy, but when I want to mix things up and go crazy, I go pineapple and green olive.
Right on.
That intensity, right? It just hits you with a bunch of hot sauce. You hot sauce guy at all? Or?
Oh yeah.
Okay. What kind of hot sauce do you put on?
Ooh,
because I don't think you guys had Frank's. Really?
Whatever got in the fridge.
I'm a diehard Frank's.
Okay, I was lucky you didn't say Tabasco. If you said Tabasco, I would have been like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?"
Tabasco tastes like so. That's the only hot sauce they had in Japan when I lived there.
Okay,
and I would get pizza as often as I could, which was very infrequently. But whenever I did, I would put Tabasco on it. So now Tabasco and basil just taste like Japanese pizza to me, which is no reason to associate those two things. But I'm like, it's like being in college again. Okay, so how long have you been at Heart and Soul? So you volunteered while you were working at Blackbird.
No, so I think I was either at Rosewild.
Oh, Rosewild.
Yeah, I
that's
want
right.
to say I was at Rosewild when I first discovered.
And so
Heart and Soul.
this is your fourth place then? Heart and Soul is your fourth place? Or
Ooh,
no, there
no,
were
I've-
other places in between.
yeah,
Okay,
I've
how many
bounced around.
restaurants have you been in the back end of?
Okay, Burn Bombs helped open up the new location. Went to the started at the old location, then helped them move to Broadway. I helped open Tati's Mediterranean, which is no longer around, which is unfortunate because it was incredible Lebanese cuisine. And then I spent some years outside of Fargo. I was in New York for 3 years at
New
the
York
Gramercy
Oh,
Tavern.
boy. All right.
Yeah, that was incredible. That was the move after Blackbird was New York, and that was, I think, where I didn't go to culinary school, so that's kind of where I got a lot of my that's where I got trained in. I would say
This is definitely so, and I say food service is kind of like being in the trenches, but it is even within their classes. I mean, definitely a different class, different. You've had good taste the whole
very
way
much
through,
so.
right?
Very much so. And
and now
learned,
you bring that class to Heart and Soul.
Yep. I also at the time when I was young, that move to New York, it helped me understand that food could take me anywhere. So I did spend some time bouncing around the country. I went to Charleston and staged at Husk, incredible restaurant started by Sean Brock. I went to Denver for a little bit. I went to Oregon, staged at Les Pigeons, that Gabriel Rucker's restaurant there. Unbelievable food. This guy's just a wizard. But I think that is, and I still hold that. I've been in Fargo for quite a few years now, and I'm not going anywhere. But I think that's the beauty of food. It's different everywhere you go. There's different styles, and it's a beautiful world.
So the mission of this first segment is just to say, for the listener, and just be like, well, if I'm who I am, but I want to be who you are, how do I get there? And, sometimes, unfortunately, the answer is just like, well, be born into the right family, right? Yeah. But and I've seen class more and more. The more I do the show, it's like been a mission that's been going on, and I start to see like, well, there's different classes of people, and that's just, the nature of reality. But, you started green. It's not like somebody, you said this was your first job. How did you end up? I mean, I think it's the start at Maxwell's of all places. They took you green. You had to know somebody.
I actually did. Yeah.
Okay.
My sister worked at Nicole's Fine Pastry when I was younger, and she recommended Maxwell's. She knew Mike, who's the chef and owner over there.
Yeah.
She kind of planted that seed for me, so she helped me get in the door there.
Anything that you can do to leverage those relationships, and it's a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
Who and being able to leverage and create networks so that you can find yourself, maybe in these better places like Maxwell's, and
Absolutely.
then move up and through. When you started volunteering for Heart and Soul, what was it that? God, have you always done volunteer work? Was this the first time you did volunteer work?
I was raised by some amazing parents that we went to. We served meals throughout my childhood. We would do. Once a month we would go to in Moorhead. It's changed names, but we got raised.
You got raised. Sometimes, and I meet people and I go, you seem like you had parents who loved you and raised you right.
Yes, spot on. I'm very grateful.
And
very grateful.
And I think those who aren't so blessed may not realize, but it sounds like you're grateful. You're aware of it.
Yep.
You take advantage of those opportunities, and they're just good networking opportunities and lead to jobs.
Absolutely.
How long were you doing it volunteer before the job got offered to you?
A year, almost a year. I'd say.
Okay.
A few meals, and then help them. When they acquired a food truck.
And
I think that's when it became
food truck.
a full-time position because Leola, and myself included, I didn't really know. I'd never worked in a food truck, but I was excited as heck to
And how did
it
you,
out.
I think I might have already asked this, but how did you, because I'm really sinking my teeth into this. It's a very exciting and interesting story. How did you know Leola? How did that...
That was Megan Lewis. Megan was working out of Square One at the time. Leola they were serving meals and prepping out of Square One.
Yeah.
So that's how they.
And then they moved from Square One into their food truck.
Yep.
And Megan was like, "You guys need bigger and better help." Is that's kind of.
I think so. Or she just wanted to open my eyes to it, and I think at the time I didn't really know how amazing it was. I didn't know that there were pay what you can cafes in the United States. I didn't really. That world was pretty foreign to me, and I think coming from Rosewild, I mean that it was the fine dining to a T, that bougie. We're serving. Yes. It was a foreign world for me, and I think that they opened my eyes.
I suppose you were serving people you've never served before.
Yeah.
But we're bringing your fine dining, your good training on how to treat the more privileged of us, and bringing it to the underserved.
Yeah. It's a pretty incredible thing, isn't it?
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
My mind is just a buzz with all kinds of ways that this could benefit me, but I'm not sure where it goes from there. It is really interesting with the food trucks. They seem to be almost a hack as far as like the food industry goes, because before you had to have like a whole giant kitchen, right? And that's why Square One and everything.
Yeah.
But anybody with a dream can buy, because food trucks are pretty accessible. $30,000.
I would say a little more.
A little more? Okay,
more.
I've seen them. I've seen them for $30,000.
I'm sure you can get them for $30,000.
Yeah.
But yes, it is. I will say this though: it's a lot more work. Just the. Yeah, when you have a brick and mortar, you have a place. You have all your things in one place, and getting things to one spot doesn't take you too long. With food truck, it's that hustle of loading up, unloading, driving it to wherever, making sure you can park it wherever you want to park it. It is a lot more work goes into it, but I think with what we do, it's phenomenal because it's allowed us to cover a lot more ground in Fargo, therefore get our name out there and let more and more people know.
Are you still utilizing places like Square One, or maybe because you guys run out of the church too? Maybe.
Yep. No, we prep and store all of our goods at First Presbyterian downtown here, and they have essentially let us take over their basement. I mean, it's a massive place, and at first I was very much like, okay, we are guests here. I was afraid to touch anything and put things in places. But that has totally changed. They have opened up so much room for us, and
not to put anybody on the spot or have an in-depth conversation. But are you yourself Presbyterian? Is this how did you get hooked up? Is Leola? How did they?
No. I think they. I can't remember the name of the lady that kind of got us in there.
So
but
previous guest to the show did Sausage Fest, and they were Presbyterians as well. And they just strike me as being into interesting things more than maybe some other churches I've seen, but I don't know. Churches are interesting connections around here too because they do so much for the community.
Yeah, they do.
And it's amazing how much of your mission they are a part of. Did you have prior experience then with food trucks, or
not a
that was a big learning curve for you?
Absolutely. Yeah, and it still is to this day. Heck yeah.
Well, and it's. And I drive food prep people crazy because I'm weird about food. Like to me, any raw meat, so do you ever prepare with raw meat?
Oh, yeah.
Are you handling that in the...
Nah.
So, okay.
No raw meat enters the food truck.
And you wouldn't want to, or it can't, or how's that?
The way we do it, so we only serve, we have small windows of serving, around 2 hours. So how I look at a meal, instead of us making burgers, flipping burgers, which we very much could on the truck.
Yeah.
I prep as much as I can at the church, load it up, already cooked. We just need to keep it warm and then prepare it for you.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's my style beyond the food truck. One, less cleaning. It's less cleaning as far as the food truck goes. But then two, a lot of times we don't know who our team is that's going to be helping us that night. So, trying to make it as easy and efficient as we can. That's the goal.
Yeah, because it's modular maybe even, right? Because it's whoever you plug in there. You don't have to train them.
Exactly.
Food's already made. It's not like, here's how this works.
Boom, just scoop it.
Very, Very interesting, very cool. You and I are going to have to talk about. I've got some things swimming. You talk about maybe it's a lot of work. I don't mind work. I like
I don't mind it either.
Sorry. That is all the time for work we have. What I want to do is jump out into our break super quick because we actually got to get out by 50 after today because it's not the regularly scheduled time today. So jump out real quick, and when we come back, I want you to tell me all about the pop-up event you guys have coming on, that our Fargo Fun segment. So don't go nowhere.